Okay, we're moving into module number 19, appreciation. I'll say this really simply. If you could do one thing that could change everything about your team and your life, it would be develop the habit of expressing authentic appreciation. This is the single action that could have, I believe, saved the astronauts' lives on Challenger, saved Hubble's mirror law. Because when you have appreciation, you create a fifth force of mutual respect and open communications that goes right across difficult subjects, which was what we needed in both those cases. And let me get this animate the right way for you. So again, the feedback across the two. Yeah, let me make a little point about this. This is a feedback loop. Everything we do tries to create favorable feedback loops. So when your team or you have a little better expression of authentic appreciation, you change the context. If it's your team, it's the fifth force your team feels. If it's you, it's your contribution to the fifth force in your life. And that makes it a little bit easier for you and someone else to go express more authentic appreciation. It's a feedback loop, and that's what the image is trying to convey. We're now going into the 8 behaviors, and we'll use this kind of slide as an organizing reference. Look at this. 70% report receiving no praise or recognition in the workplace. This is from Gallup. 64% of those who leave their jobs say it's because they didn't feel appreciated. 70% of employees hate going to work or have mentally checked out, roaming the halls, spreading discontent. And if you read that whole article, it goes on to say that what they need is to feel valued and appreciated and included, communicated with. You probably know this is the 80-20 rule. I've read this in a consulting book some years ago. In most businesses, about 20% of the workers are giving all they can. Another 20% don't want to give any more. But the middle 60% say they would give more to their work if there were more in it for them. What is the more they want? They want to feel appreciated. Now, people often say to me, well, Charlie, I'm pretty busy already, and we've already talked about this time starvation phenomenon. Will this take more time? And my answer to this is, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. What I can tell you is when you make it a habit, you won't experience it as taking more time, and that's what really matters. So when you do surveys of supervisors and bosses, they consistently report that what people want is more money. So my inquiry here is, do you think it's our emotional need to feel appreciated or our financial need to feel appreciated? I think it's 99% emotional. And so what happens is that if you use money appropriately to give people a sense of appreciation, that's surely a good thing. If you do it like so much of what we talk about badly, it can be counterproductive. For example, if you give a person a bonus of some amount and then you give someone else a peer that they don't feel is nearly as much of a contributor, a bigger amount, the money can be negative. So it's back to the emotions. And so let's go back to which emotions we're trying to stimulate. What we want is to stimulate glad group and love group, and that's what appropriate authentic appreciation will do. Now I want to do a special topic here about bosses. What do you think? As you move up in the organization, do you think emotional needs for appreciation are more or less likely to be met? I think almost universally less likely. Do you think their needs for feeling appreciated change as they move up? No. It's basic to all humans. So why don't we appreciate bosses? What are some of the names that you have? You might look at these images and see if you can't relate to some of these. And look at this. Departing CEOs of Fortune 500 companies cite lack of appreciation as their primary reason for leaving their jobs. Isn't this amazing? These are the people who have everything. The big bonuses, probably helicopters, jets. The emotional needs always trump. Obstacles to appreciation. Can always count on Dilbert for something fun. She says, you wrote last year's date on this report. Ha ha, Swift. I enjoy pointing out your mistakes because it makes me feel better about myself. He says, actually, I wrote this last year. She says, this will go faster if you say you didn't. Or how about Bart Simpson's dinner blessing? Dear God, we paid for all this stuff ourselves, so thanks for nothing. That was the attention piece. Now let's look at the mindset piece. What people say to me is, Charlie, I want to appreciate more, but my problem is I'm not sure how to make it authentic. And so if you live in the mindset of gratitude, you will experience other people's contributions with gratitude. And then when you speak what you're grateful for, that will in turn manifest itself as authentic appreciation. Cicero, a thankful heart is not only the greatest virtue, but the parent of all other virtues. I maintain that thanks are the highest form of thought, and gratitude is happiness doubled by wonder. Comedian Ben Stein, we're all heirs and heiresses to a society of freedom and plenty that most of us did absolutely nothing to earn. Now I want to talk about a closely related mindset of abundance. And I work to live in abundance and have for a long time. Some years ago, 20 years ago, maybe more, I was writing my life vision and purposes. And the first version I wrote, I want to be wealthy. And when I thought about it, I realized that the time in my life when I had the most stuff is when I felt the poorest. We're back to the fundamentals of experience again. Why is that? If you're trying to be wealthy, there's never enough. So I got it that living a life of abundance meant giving things away. So I set up in those days a monthly budget to give away something to some friend or colleague, take someone to dinner or breakfast or some small thing. And I found that by now practicing abundance, and I do it in many ways. For example, I take my Japanese relatives on trips to Europe, and it puts big numbers into the credit cards. But the way I like to think about cost is, what's the opportunity cost? What does it cost me to do that? What is it that I want that I can't have because I did that? And the answer is nothing. So let's explore abundance a little more. Wealth consists not in having many possessions, but having few wants. Epicurus, 300 BC. I love this. I found this on a greeting card in Boulder when I first moved here. I love it because it confronts a fundamental storyline in our society. If you're not happy with what you already have, how could you be happier with more? And so again, I look for opportunities. And when I first moved to Boulder, I didn't know anybody. And a guy named Ron Billingsley and his wife kind of adopted me and gave me a place to go on holidays and helped me get used to living in Boulder. Wonderful person. We did lots of bicycling together. He was the academic advisor to the president's leadership class, but he was in the English department. So in the state university, the English department professor probably only makes $50,000, $60,000 a year. And he managed to send their kids to medical school and lots of good things. And they're very frugal. His wife even made their clothes to save money. But what he'd show me once in a while, he'd open the refrigerator door and say, look at this. I got a bottle of Cordon Rouge. He'd say, Charlie, after you guys leave, the wife and I are going to go up and we're going to jump in bed and open this bottle of Cordon Rouge and just enjoy it. So I'm sitting 10 years later, hadn't seen Ron for 10 years, and his birthday pops up in my Outlook calendar. So I looked at it and said, this is an abundance opportunity. So I went down to the liquor store and I bought 2 cases of Cordon Rouge champagne and put it on his doorstep when nobody was home. So I waited. Nothing happened that day. Next morning he calls me up. He's laughing and laughing. Said, it was you. I said, hey, Ron, how are you, man? How you been? Haven't heard from you for quite a while. How's everything going? He said, it was you. I said, what was me, Ron? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, it was you. He said over and over. And finally I said, all right, it was me. How'd you figure it out? He said, well, what I did is I made a list of everybody who knew when my birthday was, and that wasn't very long. Then I put a check mark by people who knew how much I loved Cordon Rouge champagne, and that became even a shorter list. Then I asked myself who was crazy enough to do this, and the answer was you. So I said, yeah, I'm busted. So thank you very much, he said. So, well, you know, I'm glad to do it for you. You were a friend when I needed one. And, you know, looking back on that, I can tell you that I've gotten much more enjoyment out of telling this story than I would have ever gotten from the money that it cost to buy that champagne for Ron. Practice it and see what happens. Look at this. This is really amazing to me. Here's a medical doctor, well known for lifestyle and diet things. And I'll pick this up in the next section on a few minutes on appreciation segment 2. Thank you for listening and have a great day. Bye-bye.